Hi, everybody. I wanted to take a few minutes to introduce you guys to an interesting resource for aspiring apologists, something you can use to kind of just practice or think about how you would respond to different questions that people can ask you. I'm going to have the link to this video in the video description here. And when you go to their video, just click on their channel, and there's tons of other videos you could watch. Now, what you're seeing here is a group that calls themselves street epistemologists. It's a group of atheists. And unlike the typical atheists that you might get into a debate with, where you might go back and forth and get into a heated discussion, this group takes a somewhat different approach because they don't really try to argue necessarily, but they try to ask questions to get you as a theist or as a religious person to think about why you believe what you believe. Now, obviously, the intention is that once you really take the time to think through your positions, you realize they're bogus and you drop them. That's what they're hoping to accomplish. But at least they're not attacking you and trying to kind of make you feel dumb for believing different things, but they're just asking questions and hoping that in the process you'll think about it and you'll start to realize that some of the things you believe don't really have a solid basis for belief. So what's going on in this particular video is that you have a group of guys. It starts off with 4, and they seem to keep joining as the presentation continues. And what they're doing is they're analyzing another street epistemologist that's interacting with a Christian pastor. So it starts off like this, and I'll play a little bit. I'll just play clips of it for you. So here they're just talking and introducing themselves.
Hey, good.
It's going good.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the beginning, and then they play another video where another person is. So this is a video of a video of a video. Where another person is interacting with a Christian pastor who is a street preacher. So let me see okay, so let's move about here somewhere.
The relationship between the confidence they have and the reasons they have, what they believe. That's not.
So that's the
which changes a man's life completely, raises him from the dead, spiritually speaking.
So you had an experience in your life and it changed your understanding of this God?
It opened my eyes and changed my worldview. Yes, it did.
How did you decide to attribute these changes in your life to this specific God, Jesus, that you're
Because I read the Bible, and then I chose to believe. See, here, the problem with most men is they say,
okay, I'll let you watch the video for yourself because it's kind of interesting. But there's an epistemologist that's questioning this pastor, the street preacher, and the guys watching the video occasionally stop or pause the video and then comment on it. So somewhere around here, for example.
What has gotten better? What has progressed?
If he'd been doing this for 6 years and nothing had improved, that would be condemnation. That would be genuine.
Okay, so you get the idea. So they're sitting there basically just commenting on this interaction between the atheist and the pastor. And the intent of this commentary is, first of all, for them to improve their strategy. So they're trying to get better at asking questions, to get better at interacting with the religious people, and to even be more friendly and less intimidating or less antagonistic in their conversation. So that all that stuff is good. Now, of course, in the process of the conversation, they're also commenting on the responses of the pastor, and they're kind of discussing with themselves how flawed his reasoning is. And to a large degree, they're right, because this pastor is probably somewhere at the bottom of the barrels, intellectually speaking, when it comes to Christian apologetics. There's a point where he says that he actually saw somebody be raised from the dead, like a person was dead for an hour and a half and he prayed and the person came back to life. So, take that as you may, but I'm probably, even if I had experienced something like that, I wouldn't be mentioning that in a video like this. But anyway, that's kind of what's happening in this video. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because I think this is a good way to kind of practice your own approach to apologetics just by watching this interaction. So what I recommend you do is you listen to the street epistemologist ask his questions, and then you pause the video, and then you ask yourself how you would respond to that question. Then play it again and listen to how this pastor responds, and then pause and kind of think about whether he gave a good answer or not, and then listen to the street epistemologist interact with that response, and then to the commentary of these guys on the bottom, explaining why they think that was a good question, it wasn't a good response, things like that. So you could get multiple perspectives on the questions being asked, and maybe think about how you could answer those questions a little bit better if you were in this situation. Now, overall, for me personally, this whole process is somewhat amusing because for people that call themselves street epistemologists, at least from my point of view, they don't really seem to get epistemology. And maybe to use an illustration of what I mean by this, and this is an issue now with them, not just with them, but with pretty much most atheists today, is that they think this whole epistemic questioning applies to everybody else except to them. So it's almost like, to kind of visualize it, imagine, someplace where there's like a flat area, and then there's the occasional mountain coming out of the ground, and all these mountains represent all these religious perspectives, whether it's Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, whatever, all the different religious perspectives in the world. And all they do is, they themselves are standing on the ground, so they're standing on the flat. They're kind of a default, in a default position, and all these other perspectives, all these religious groups kind of come out from this bottom foundational area, and they're making claims, and all they have to do is kind of sit there and poke holes, and then these mountains collapse, and they can move from one to the other, and eventually everybody is kind of brought back to this bottom floor area that is the default. That's how they view themselves in this conversation, when in fact, in reality, there would also be another mountain, because there is no such thing as a neutral or default position in epistemology. So it's kind of amusing and ironic that they're trying to do epistemology without really understanding epistemology. But anyway, I still think this is a good resource to use if you're trying to just kind of practice in a non-confrontational way. Personally, for anybody that wants to learn apologetics, I would say there's no substitute for actually engaging in conversation with people. And the easiest way to do it is to do it online in anonymous forums, because it just doesn't matter. You could create 20 different accounts and have your conversations. And if you lose the debate, you could just come back as somebody else, and there's no embarrassment at all, because it just doesn't matter. Nobody knows who you are. Those are the safest places to practice engaging in this kinds of conversation, if that's what you're going for. But this is another way to do it without really even talking to anyone. All right, so this video is made for a new Facebook group that I created called Adventist Professional Apologetics. The idea with this group is that while I try to invite people that have at least some degrees in theology and philosophy and other fields like this, the group is open, so other people can contribute. Unfortunately, as far as I know, as a denomination, Adventists don't really have a professional apologetics component. I'm not sure we have anybody that has advanced degrees specifically in the field of apologetics. And not just this, I actually believe that if we ever did produce such an area within our context, it would have to be a lot different than what evangelicals, Catholics, and other groups have out there when it comes to apologetics. So we probably have to rethink the whole process in a way that lines up better with our perspective on reality. But in the meantime, as we're thinking about this stuff and as we interact with people, this can be a good resource to help us improve our technique. All right, so again, if you know anybody that would be good to join our group, then invite them over. It's search on Facebook for Adventist Professional Apologetics, and hope you can enjoy some of these resources.